January 2001. The gaming world was stunned. Sega, once Nintendo's fiercest rival, announced it was quitting the console business. The company behind Sonic the Hedgehog was surrendering in the console wars. For millions of fans, it felt like the end of an era. Sega's president Peter Moore delivered the news. Dreamcast production would end, and Sega would start making games for its former rivals. Sonic on a Nintendo or PlayStation? Unthinkable, until now. This wasn't just a business decision, it was the final act in a long, dramatic struggle. Sega had once challenged Nintendo's dominance, even claiming the crown for a time. But years of missteps and fierce competition had taken their toll. The Dreamcast's price was slashed, inventory cleared, and Sega's hardware legacy was over. The shockwaves were immediate. How did it come to this? Sega's exit marked the end of a legendary rivalry. Mario versus Sonic, cool versus classic. The company that defined cool in gaming was now playing by its competitors' rules. The industry would never be the same, but to understand Sega's fall, we have to look back at how they rose to the top. This is the story of Sega's rise, fall, and transformation. Before the fall, Sega was unstoppable. In the early 90s, the Sega Genesis, sleek, fast, and edgy, took the world by storm. Sega's marketing was bold. Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Sonic the Hedgehog became the face of a new generation, fast, cool, and everything Mario wasn't. Bundling Sonic with the Genesis was a masterstroke, propelling Sega to over 60% market share in North America. Sega's library was diverse: sports hits, uncensored arcade ports, and games for older players. They weren't afraid to take risks, and gamers loved them for it. Sega Arcade set the standard, and their home consoles brought that excitement into living rooms. Visionaries like Tom Kalinske led Sega of America to outmaneuver Nintendo with clever marketing and relentless releases. For a moment, Sega was king, an empire built on innovation and attitude. Their identity was clear, their mascot iconic, and their fans loyal. It was the golden age of Sega. But empires rarely last forever. Soon, cracks would begin to show. Sega's empire began to falter with risky hardware decisions. The Sega CD and 32X add-ons confused customers and split the market. Expensive, poorly supported, and quickly abandoned, these devices eroded trust. Internal conflict between Sega of America and Sega of Japan made things worse. The Saturn's surprise early launch in the US alienated retailers and developers. High price, complex hardware, and poor communication left Sega vulnerable. Sony's PlayStation entered with a lower price and developer-friendly design. Sega's missteps gave Sony the opening it needed. The once mighty Sega was now struggling to keep up. The cracks had become impossible to ignore. Sega needed a miracle. That miracle was the Dreamcast. Launched in 1999, it was ahead of its time. Online play, innovative controller, and a stellar game lineup. The Dreamcast's launch was a hit, with games like Sonic Adventure and Soul Calibur wowing fans. For a brief moment, Sega seemed reborn, but the shadow of PlayStation 2 loomed large. Burned by Sega's past hardware, many gamers waited for Sony's next move. The PS2's DVD playback and massive hype were irresistible. Developers shifted focus to Sony, and Dreamcast's library began to dry up. Despite selling over 9 million units, the Dreamcast couldn't save Sega's hardware business. Losses mounted, and support faded. The Dreamcast was Sega's last stand, and it wasn't enough. The end was inevitable. Sega had to change or disappear. January 2001, Sega officially exits the console business. Peter Moore announced Sega's transformation into a third-party publisher. Sonic and other Sega icons would now appear on PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox. It was surreal, but it saved the company. Freed from hardware costs, Sega focused on what it did best, making great games. Franchises like Sonic, Yakuza, and Jet Set Radio found new life on rival platforms. Sega survived by adapting, not surrendering. Their story is a lesson in ambition, rivalry, and resilience. Sega's legacy endures, not as a console maker, but as a creative force in gaming. Subscribe for more stories from gaming history.